So what is margin, right? Margin is basically you borrowing money from a brokerage firm to buy securities, right? So you're basically using leverage to increase your potential investment loss or gains, right? So it allows you to buy more stock than you would with your own money, but it also puts you at risk of losing a lot more than you have, right? So I wouldn't really recommend you using margin until you know what you're doing. And even if you know what you're doing, I would advise you to be very careful, right? Because yeah, you could make more money, but you could also lose a lot more money too, right? Because let's say, right, you're using margin and you buy a stock and that stock keeps going down and down and down and down, then you put yourself at risk of getting a margin call. All right. So, and then when you get a margin call, they're gonna force you to sell that asset, right? So if you sell that asset and it still doesn't cover because you borrowed money, so it still doesn't cover the amount that you borrowed, then you're gonna be forced to sell other stocks or other cryptos or option plays that you might have, right? So that's why that could be a bad thing also. So one way I would use margin if I absolutely had to, right? So let's say one of your stock that you've been looking at is down, all right, and it's at a price that you're like, this would be like a good investment. It's almost at the bottom, right? And let's say you don't have money on you right now to buy that, right? But you get paid next week, or you have some money coming in a few days, or whatever the case may be, right? You could use margin, right, to buy that asset, and then when you get paid next week or when that money come in, you start slowly paying the margin back. Or if you have the full amount, then you could pay the whole thing right away, right? So you have to be very careful with margin, because at the end of the day, it's borrowed money, you know? So if you know what you're doing, you could, dibble and dabble, with margin, but I wouldn't recommend it, right? So I would say if you absolutely have to, it could be helpful, but if you don't know what you're doing, stay away, all right? So I hope you find this video helpful, and let's get this money out.